The steam rose in plumes as I sliced through the perfectly seared duck breast, the kitchen's familiar symphony of clanging pots and sizzling pans providing the soundtrack to my Monday morning. My name is Olivia Morgan, and after 15 years of working in kitchens across 3 continents, I had finally returned to my hometown of Portland to take a break from the spotlight. The last 5 years had been a whirlwind. 2 Michelin stars for my restaurant in Singapore, a James Beard Award, and enough television appearances to make my mother finally stop asking when I was getting a real job. But burnout is real in this industry, and after selling my stake in the restaurant, I needed something simple. So here I was, accepting a sous chef position at Elevation, a new upscale restaurant trying to make its mark on Portland's already saturated food scene. I hadn't told anyone about my background, just presented a paid-down resume highlighting my technical skills without the accolades. I wanted to cook, not be Chef Chen for a while. New girl. I need that duck now. The voice belonged to executive chef Dominic Wells, a rising star in the local food scene with a growing reputation both for his innovative Pacific Northwest cuisine and his volatile temperament. At 35, just a year younger than me, he'd built his career through local connections and a flair for self-promotion that had earned him regional fame. I slid the plates to the pass, where Dominic inspected them with narrowed eyes. "The sauce is pooling," he said, pushing one back to me. "Wipe the rim and replate. We don't serve sloppy food here." The sauce was perfectly placed, not touching the rim, but I nodded and fixed it anyway. I had been here only 2 weeks, and already I'd noticed the double standard. Male line cooks got constructive feedback, while the few women received public criticism, no matter the quality of our work. "Thank you, chef," I said, keeping my voice neutral. I'd dealt with worse in French and Japanese kitchens, where women were even rarer. This was nothing new. As service wound down, I overheard Dominic talking to James, his head chef. "The new woman is technically sound, but there's no creativity there. Another robot following recipes." He laughed. "Probably why she's stuck at sous chef level." James glanced my way, uncomfortable, but said nothing as Dominic continued. "We'll keep her on prep and simple stations. Some people just aren't cut out for the real culinary arts." I scrubbed the grill with extra vigor that night. I hadn't come here looking for a battle, but something told me I had found one anyway. 3 weeks into my new position, Elevation was preparing for its first visit from a major food critic. The kitchen was electric with tension as Dominic stalked from station to station, scrutinizing everyone's mise en place. "Olivia," he called across the kitchen, "I need you to handle just the cold appetizers tonight. I'm moving Tyler to the fish station." I looked up from the delicate plating of a beet and goat cheese salad. "Chef, I've been running hot apps and fish all week without issues. And tonight I need you on cold apps only," he repeated, louder this time so the entire kitchen could hear. "It's a critic night. We need our strongest people on the main dishes." Tyler, a culinary school graduate with half my experience, shot me an apologetic look as he moved to take over my station. I swallowed my pride and nodded. "Yes, chef." Throughout service, I watched as Tyler struggled with the timing on the scallops, overcooking one order that Dominic quietly slid into the trash before redoing himself. When I stepped over to help during a lull in my orders, Dominic immediately intercepted. "Back to your station, Maya. I need those beet salads, not your opinion on scallops." After the critic left, Dominic gathered the staff for his usual post-service debrief. "Good work tonight, everyone." He nodded to several of the male chefs individually. "Tyler, good recovery on the fish station. Challenging position, but you stepped up." No mention of my perfectly executed cold dishes that had gone out without a single return or complaint. As the team dispersed, I approached Dominic with my notebook in hand. "Chef, I had some ideas for the spring menu I'd like to share." I was thinking about a cured hamachi with Olivia. He cut me off, barely looking up from his inventory sheet. Let's stick to executing the existing menu properly before trying to reinvent it. I've got the creative direction covered. I pressed on, keeping my voice steady. With respect, chef, I have experience with Japanese techniques that might complement your vision. I worked in Tokyo for 3. Every cook who's staged somewhere for a summer thinks they understand a cuisine. He sighed, finally looking at me. You're solid on basics, and that's valuable. But there's a reason I'm the executive chef. The creative work, the art, that's my department. As I walked back to my station, I heard him mutter to James, typical. 2 weeks in, and she thinks she knows better than everyone. This is why I prefer working with men sometimes. Less drama, more focus. That night, at home, I stared at the wall of awards and press clippings I'd kept boxed up since moving back. My segment from Chef's Table, the write-up in Food and Wine, naming me one of the top 10 innovators in modern Asian cuisine. The photo of me receiving my 2nd Michelin star. I hadn't come to Elevation looking for recognition. But I also hadn't come to be diminished by someone who wouldn't recognize true innovation if it were plated and garnished in front of him. The following weeks brought a pattern of increasingly frustrating interactions. Dominic assigned me to inventory and ordering, tasks typically given to junior cooks, not the sous chef. Meanwhile, he invited Tyler and James to his recipe development sessions, often within earshot of where I was counting cases of vegetables. Olivia, did the produce order arrive short again? Dominic asked one morning, irritation evident in his voice. No, chef. Everything was accounted for. I verified it myself. He pointed to the walk-in. Then why are we low on shallots already? I need them for tonight's special. We're low because you added a shallot jam to the burger yesterday without updating the prep list, I explained calmly. I've already called our supplier for an emergency delivery. Instead of acknowledging my foresight, he frowned. Next time, anticipate these changes. A good sous chef stays one step ahead. Later that day, I overheard him in his office with the restaurant owner Marcus. She's competent enough with basics, Dominic was saying, but there's no spark there. No instinct for flavor pairing. I'm carrying the creative weight for the entire kitchen. Marcus's response was measured. The customers seem happy with the food. Service is running smoother since she started. Anyone can execute a recipe, Dominic dismissed. I need people who understand food as art, not just sustenance. I'm thinking of bringing in someone from my previous restaurant as executive sous chef. Move Olivia to prep supervisor. A demotion. After just over a month, without any legitimate feedback or opportunity to demonstrate my capabilities. That evening, Lisa, one of the line cooks, approached me as I was breaking down my station. That was messed up today with the shallots. You handled it really well. Thanks, I said, wiping down my cutting board. Some of us were talking, she continued, lowering her voice. Dominic does this with every woman who comes through with any real experience. The last female sous chef lasted 6 weeks before he moved her to pastry, then cut her hours until she quit. I wasn't surprised, but the confirmation still stung. Has anyone ever challenged him on it? Lisa shook her head. Marcus trusts him with the kitchen, and Dominic's connected with every restaurant owner in the city. Cross him, and you might as well leave Portland. The next day, Dominic announced we would be hosting a special Chef's Table event, 6 courses for local influencers and potential investors. James will be handling meat, Tyler on fish, I'll manage the signature courses and plating. Maya, you'll handle vegetable prep and assist where needed. Vegetable prep. Not even a course to call my own. Chef, I said carefully, as sous chef, shouldn't I be running at least 1 course? The kitchen went quiet. Challenging Dominic publicly wasn't done. His smile didn't reach his eyes. When you demonstrate the creativity and finesse needed for a Chef's Table event, you'll get your chance. Until then, stick to what you do best, following directions. That night, I received a text from an old colleague now working at Gastronomique, the most prestigious restaurant in the city. Heard Wells is making your life hell. Not surprised. When you're ready to work for a real chef who respects talent, call me. I stared at my phone for a long time. I could walk away, find a better position elsewhere. But something in me refused to let Dominic win so easily. The chef's table event was 3 days away, and tensions in the kitchen were at an all-time high. Dominic had rejected my vegetable preparation 3 times already, claiming the cuts weren't precise enough, despite them being textbook perfect. "Olivia, what is this?" he demanded, holding up the brunoise I just completed for the amuse-bouche. "These are uneven. Do it again." I examined the perfectly uniform 2mm cubes. "Chef, these are standard brunoise cuts." "They're inconsistent," he insisted, dumping the entire container into the trash. "Start over, and I need them in 30 minutes. 2 hours of work wasted. I took a deep breath and started again, aware of the sympathetic glances from other cooks. Later that afternoon, I was transferring my knife roll to my locker when I overheard Dominic in the dry storage with Marcus. Thinking we should restructure after the chef's table, Dominic was saying, "Maya's not working out at Sue's level. I'm bringing in Ryan from Westfields next week. You said she had solid technical skills." Marcus sounded confused. "Technical, yes. Creative, no. And she's been undermining my authority with the staff, creating a toxic environment." My hands shook with anger. I'd done nothing but keep my head down and do my job impeccably despite his constant criticism. "If you think it's necessary," Marcus conceded. "Have you given her performance feedback?" "Multiple times. Some people just can't handle the pressure of a serious kitchen." That evening, as I was finalizing my prep list for the next day, James approached me, looking uncomfortable. "Olivia, I just wanted to say, I think your vegetable work is excellent. I even know what Dominic's problem is." "Thanks, James." He hesitated. "There's something else. The dessert course for the chef's table. Dominic's planning a yuzu crémeuse with black sesame oil. But I saw his test run yesterday. The texture was off, and the flavors were fighting each other. I knew exactly why. Yuzu's acidity required precise handling, and black sesame could easily overpower it if not balanced correctly. These were flavors I'd worked with extensively in Japan and Singapore. "He won't take suggestions from me," I said flatly. "I know, but this event is huge for the restaurant. If that dessert fails..." James left the implication hanging. After everyone left, I stayed behind, staring at the prep list for the event. My position was already lost. What did I have to lose by trying one more time to contribute meaningfully? I pulled out ingredients and began working on a properly balanced version of the dessert, adjusting ratios and adding a light lemongrass infusion to bridge the flavor gap. I made 2 versions, one following Dominic's recipe exactly, and one with my corrections. The next morning, I placed both versions in the walk-in with detailed notes on the technical issues and their corrections. When I arrived for my shift, I found Dominic in a rage, my containers smashed on the floor of the kitchen. "How dare you," he hissed, getting uncomfortably close to my face. "Trying to sabotage my menu the day before the most important event we've had." "Chef, I was trying to help. The acid-to-fat ratio in the original recipe." "You're fired," he cut me off. "Clean out your station and get out. I won't have some mediocre sous chef who couldn't make it beyond line cooking elsewhere trying to undermine me in my kitchen." The kitchen went silent. Everyone froze, watching the confrontation. "Chef," James started to interject. Olivia was just. "Stay out of this," Dominic snapped. "Maya, you have 15 minutes to leave the property." As I packed my knives, a strange calm settled over me. I tried to be humble, to start fresh without the weight of my reputation. But enough was enough. I pulled out my phone and made a call I'd been avoiding. "Jean Michael? It's Olivia Morgan. Yes, it's been too long. Listen, I think I'm ready for that guest chef opportunity we discussed. The one at Gastronomique. For this weekend? Perfect." The next morning, instead of nursing my wounds, I was sitting across from Jean-Michel Rousseau, the executive chef at Gastronomique, Portland's only Michelin-starred restaurant. "So, Olivia Morgan returns to the spotlight," he said, a twinkle in his eye. Jean-Michel and I had known each other for years, having judged international competitions together. "When you called about doing a guest chef weekend, I cleared the schedule immediately. But why now?" I explained my situation at Elevation, watching his expression shift from amusement to disbelief to anger. "Dominic Wells fired you for trying to fix his dessert." Jean-Michel laughed bitterly. "That man's ego has always exceeded his talent. He stages with Joel Robuchon for 3 months and thinks he's a master of French technique. I just wanted to cook without the pressure of being Chef Morgan for a while," I admitted. Jean-Michel shook his head. "Your humility has always been admirable, Maya, but there's a difference between humility and allowing yourself to be mistreated. Now, tell me about this chef's table event." I outlined what I knew: 6 influencers, 2 potential investors, and a food critic from the regional magazine. All there to experience Dominic's creative vision. "Perfect," Jean-Michel said, tapping his fingers on the table. "Our guest chef weekend begins tomorrow night, the same night as his event. What if we invited the same people?" My eyes widened. "Jean-Michel, I didn't come here for revenge." "Not revenge, ma chère. Education." He slid a piece of paper toward me. "This is your carte blanche. 6 courses, whatever you wish to create. Show Portland what real innovation tastes like." Meanwhile, I reached out to Lisa from Elevation, who was more than happy to keep me updated on the chef's table preparations. According to her, Dominic was in a panic, trying to replace not only my prep work, but also reworking the problematic dessert course at the last minute. "He tried your version when he thought no one was looking," Lisa texted, then threw it away and started over. That afternoon, Jean-Michel's PR team went to work. Announcements went out about a surprise guest chef weekend at Gastronomique, featuring a globally acclaimed chef making a rare Portland appearance. They sent personal invitations to the exact list of influencers and investors attending Elevation's event, offering them a special seating if they could arrive 2 hours earlier than their Elevation reservation. "They can still make both events," Jean-Michel assured me. "But they'll come to yours first. And after they taste your food." I spent the rest of the day planning my menu, focusing on the fusion of techniques and flavors that had earned me my reputation. Each dish would showcase precision, creativity, and balance, everything Dominic had accused me of lacking. By evening, 4 of the 6 influencers and both investors had switched their reservations to start at Gastronomique. The regional food critic had added our event to their schedule as well. When I finally went to bed that night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unfamiliar number. "Maya, it's Marcus from Elevation. Can we talk tomorrow? Dominic told me he let you go, but I'm hearing concerning details about the circumstances." I smiled as I turned off the light. The first crack was showing in Dominic's facade. The kitchen at Gastronomique hummed with a different energy than Elevation's tense atmosphere. Here, chefs moved with purpose but without fear, calling out each other with respect regardless of gender or station. "Chef Morgan, your mise en place is ready," called the sous chef, a young woman who had been openly starstruck when Jean-Michel introduced us. "Thank you, Alicia. Beautiful work." I inspected the precisely arranged ingredients for my first course. A delicate hamachi crudo with yuzu kosho, smoked sea salt, and fermented plum gel, flavors that nodded to my time in Japan, while incorporating Pacific Northwest ingredients. Jean-Michel entered, tablet in hand. "Our guests have begun arriving," he announced, including Mr. Richards. I looked up from my plating. Lawrence Richards was the food critic for the Northwest Culinary Review, whose opinion could make or break a restaurant in this region. He was also known for his friendship with Dominic Wells. "Does he know I'm the guest chef?" I asked, carefully placing micro-herbs with tweezers. Not yet, Jean-Michel smiled. I've asked the servers to keep your identity confidential until the final course. I want unbiased reactions. The first 4 courses went out flawlessly. Through the kitchen window, I could see the influencers taking photos, the investors nodding appreciatively, and Richards making detailed notes after each bite. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with updates from Lisa at Elevation. Dominic is losing it, she texted. Half the guests called to say they're running late, and the food critic hasn't shown up yet. Another text followed. The dessert is a disaster. He tried to fix it himself, but the cream moves didn't set properly. I felt a twinge of sympathy for the kitchen staff caught in the crossfire of Dominic's surely explosive mood, but I refocused on my work. My 5th course, a 48-hour short rib with dashi braised daikon and black garlic jus, was just going out when Marcus from Elevation walked through Gastronomique's front door. Jean-Michel raised an eyebrow at me. Did you invite the competition? No, I said, surprised. But I received a message from him last night wanting to talk. Jean-Michel seated Marcus at the bar, where he had a clear view of both the dining room and the partially open kitchen. I could feel his eyes on me as I directed the plating of the short rib course. For the final course, I had created a refined version of the dessert Dominic had been struggling with, yuzu cream moves with the perfect texture, balanced by a black sesame praline rather than a churro, accompanied by a delicate matcha sponge and lemongrass-infused cream. It was an homage to my time in Singapore, technically complex but harmonious on the palate. As the desserts went out, Jean-Michel announced to the dining room that he would like to introduce the guest chef responsible for their meal. The diners applauded as I removed my chef's coat, revealing a second coat underneath with my name and 2 Michelin stars embroidered on the chest. The room went silent, then erupted in excitement. I saw Lawrence Richards' eyes widen in recognition, the influencers frantically typing on their phones, and Marcus staring in open-mouthed shock. Ladies and gentlemen, Jean-Michel proclaimed, it is my honor to host Chef Olivia Morgan, 2-time Michelin star recipient and James Beard Award winner, who has generously shared her talents with us this evening. As I stepped forward to address the diners, my phone lit up with a final text from Lisa. Dominic just found out where all the guests went. He's on his way to Gastronomique. I had just finished describing my culinary philosophy to the enthralled diners when Dominic burst through the restaurant's entrance, face flushed with anger. The maitre attempted to intercept him, but he pushed past toward our private dining section. What is this? He demanded loudly, causing heads to turn throughout the restaurant. His eyes locked on the group of influencers and investors, his intended guests, before settling on me standing at the head of the table. Olivia? Jean-Michel stepped forward smoothly. Chef Wells, what an unexpected pleasure. Have you come to support your colleague's guest appearance? Dominic's confusion was evident as he processed my chef's coat with its Michelin stars, the rapt attention of the diners, and Marcus's presence at the bar. Colleague. She was my prep cook who couldn't follow basic instructions. Lawrence Richards, the food critic, cleared his throat. Actually, according to my sources, Chef Morgan was your sous chef. Though given her credentials, that seems like an unusual placement. The color drained from Dominic's face as he looked back at me. What credentials? Jean-Michel gestured to me with a flourish. Chef Olivia Morgan. Her restaurant in Singapore, Harmony, held 2 Michelin stars for 3 consecutive years. Her progressive fusion cuisine has been featured on Chef's Table, and she was named one of Food and Wine's top 10 global innovators. The influencers were now recording discreetly on their phones as Dominic struggled to recover. That's not. You never mentioned any of this, he finally managed, addressing me directly. You never asked, I replied calmly. You assumed I had no creative vision despite 15 years of experience across 3 continents. You dismissed my suggestions without consideration and relegated me to prep work despite my position. That's not what happened, Dominic protested, but I could see Marcus watching intently from the bar, his expression hardening. One of the investors, a woman in her 50s, spoke up. "Chef Wells, we just experienced one of the most innovative meals I've had in years. Chef Chen's understanding of flavor balance and technical precision is extraordinary." Another diner chimed in. "The way she balanced the yuzu and black sesame in the dessert was masterful. I've never tasted anything like it." Dominic flinched at the mention of the dessert, the very dish he had been struggling with, the one I had tried to help him perfect. "This was the dish you fired her for trying to improve?" Marcus asked, finally approaching our table. His usually friendly demeanor had been replaced by cold professionalism. "The dish that's currently sitting unmade in our kitchen, because no one could get it right." Dominic turned to Marcus, lowering his voice. "This isn't the place to discuss staffing decisions. We should talk privately." "I agree," Marcus replied. "After I finished this exceptional meal that should have been served at our restaurant." Lawrence Richards stood, extending his hand to me. "Chef Morgan, truly exemplary work tonight. I'd love to schedule a formal interview about your return to the Portland culinary scene." "Of course," I replied, keenly aware of Dominic's stricken expression. "I'm especially interested in discussing the importance of kitchen culture and how proper mentorship shapes the next generation of chefs." Jean Michaels signaled to the staff, who smoothly guided Dominic toward the exit while offering him a business card. "Perhaps you'd like to make a proper reservation, Chef Wells. We're fully booked for the next 3 weeks, but we might find you a table near the kitchen where you can observe proper technique." As Dominic was escorted out, I caught Marcus's eye. He gave me a short nod that communicated everything: respect, apology, and a conversation to come. The guests returned to their desserts, now buzzing with excited conversation about witnessing such unexpected drama in Portland's usually polite culinary community. Meanwhile, my phone was already filling with notifications as the story began spreading through social media. I hadn't come seeking vengeance, but standing there in my proper chef's coat, watching the diners savor my creation, the very one Dominic had dismissed, I felt something better than revenge: vindication. 3 weeks later, I unlocked the front door of Elevation, breathing in the quiet morning air of the empty restaurant. So much had changed since the night at Gastronomique that had unexpectedly thrust me back into the spotlight. The morning after the event, Marcus had called me with a proposition: return to Elevation not as sous chef, but as executive chef with complete creative control. Dominic, he explained, had been reassigned to a consulting position, a gentle way of saying he'd been removed from daily operations following a comprehensive review of staff complaints that had apparently been accumulating for months. "Your dessert wasn't the first incident," Marcus had explained. "Just the final one that made me look deeper." Now, as I walked through the dining room toward the kitchen that was now under my direction, I reflected on the whirlwind that had followed. Lawrence Richards' glowing review of my guest chef dinner had gone viral in the culinary world, contrasting my technical mastery and innovative vision with the derivative and technically flawed offerings he'd sampled later that same evening at Elevation under Dominic's direction. The investors who had attended both events had approached Marcus with an ultimatum: change leadership or lose funding. The choice, as Marcus put it, had been simple from both a business and ethical perspective. I pushed through the swinging doors into the kitchen where Lisa was already prepping vegetables, her new position as sous chef a natural promotion given her skills and loyalty. "Morning, chef," she said with a smile that still held a hint of amazement when addressing me by my proper title. "Good morning, Lisa. How's the new team settling in?" After my appointment, several staff members who had left under Dominic's leadership had returned, bringing with them colleagues eager to work in what was now being described in industry circles as a chef's kitchen, professional, creative, and respectfully run regardless of gender. "Really well. Tyler's picking up the new techniques quickly, and James seems much happier with the collaborative menu development." I nodded pleased. I'd kept most of Dominic's team, believing that many of them simply needed proper mentorship to thrive. "Chef," Lisa hesitated. "There's something you should see." She handed me her phone open to an industry blog. The headline read, "Wells strikes out, third failed consulting gig for former Elevation chef." According to the article, Dominic had been let go from his third consulting position in as many weeks, with restaurants citing creative differences and management style concerns. The article specifically mentioned how female staff members had reported similar experiences of dismissal and belittlement at each location. "I'm not celebrating someone's downfall," Lisa said carefully, "but it feels like justice that his behavior is finally catching up to him." I handed back her phone. "Be suppressed forever," he replied. "And that sometimes the best revenge is simply showing the world who you really are." The champagne was interrupted by a delivery, a large arrangement of rare culinary herbs with a card that read, "Chef Chen, looking forward to experiencing your vision at Elevation. Your journey inspires our culinary future. The women of Portland Culinary Institute." As I showed the card to my team, my phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line, "Michelin Guide, Pacific Northwest Expansion Announcement." I smiled to myself. I hadn't come to Portland seeking stars or acclaim, just a quieter life cooking good food. But sometimes life has other plans, and sometimes those plans turn out even better than the ones we make for ourselves. That evening, as guests began arriving for our soft opening, I stood at the pass overseeing each plate. Through the kitchen window, I spotted a familiar face among the diners. Dominic, sitting alone at a corner table, menu in hand. Our eyes met briefly before he nodded slightly. A small gesture that might have been respect, might have been resignation. I nodded back, neither triumphant nor resentful, then returned my attention to the plate before me. "Fire table 7, I called out, my voice clear and confident in the kitchen that was now truly mine.